Okay, Perry, the FIFE property market, which homes are actually selling best?
Well, Jim.
Well,
Here's the question.
inflation. Well, you never even got the answer, did you? I cut you
No.
off mid-flow. So let's talk about this. You know, we're going to talk about this all the way through. So for anybody tuning in right now, this is all about the FIFE property market and which homes are actually selling best. The reason that you want to know that is because you want to know if your home's going to be popular when you actually decide to put it on the market. Now, there's a thought process here that everybody thinks. My home will sell itself.
The famous quote.
Every single time we get, my home will sell itself. Yeah, every home will sell itself, but are you going to get the true value for your home at the end of it? That is the key. Inflation, interest rates, house prices down, house prices up. The newspapers are full of column inches on the Brits' second favourite topic, which is the property market. The first being the weather, obviously. Those of you that read the articles and watch the shows on the FIFE property market know, well, I like to look further afield to compare the FIFE market with the regional and national markets overall. The one thing that is immediately apparent is that the UK does not have one property market.
Mhm.
House prices are up in one region in the UK, yet down in another region in the UK. We just did that the other day when I did the Zoopla UK update. It's a hodgepodge patchwork, almost like a fly's eye, if that makes sense, the wee hexagonals you see on it. Lots of small property markets, all performing in different ways. And that actually made me think, is there just one FIFE property market, or is there actually many? So we decided to dive into the dynamics of the FIFE housing market, Perry, to see if it operates on a singular entity or if it's a diverse price ranges significantly influence the property's saleability. So what's your thoughts on this?
It's certainly a curious one, isn't it? And the curiosity stems from the observation that properties, much like spectrums, range from modestly priced to premium pricing. We do it ourselves when we do the Sunday update, don't we? We certainly see anything that's kind of 300 to 250 and under are generally going faster than the ones over. So we definitely see that divide already. So there is a difference between modestly priced and premium pricing. As I say, variations in pricing could potentially carve out distinct segments within the market. And we do see that as well, Jim, don't we? Each with its own trends and buyer behaviours as well. That continually is changing as more properties become available. Buyer behaviour changes. We've seen that. So we decided the way we would do it is to kind of split the FIFE property market into 4 equal-sized distinctive price ranges, each representing a unique slice of the market, let's say. So I think that's what we're going to look at today, isn't it?
Absolutely. Imagine the entire range of house prices are really just a 4-layer cake. The lowest quartile forms the actual base layer, representing the most affordable, which is really 25% of the market. These are typically the most accessible for first-time buyers and buy-to-let landlords and investors. Next up is the lower middle quartile, the second layer, and comes from properties priced between the 25th and the 50th percentiles. These homes offer, I think, a step up in features, in style, possible location as well, while remaining a moderate price range. What about the middle and upper quartile, Perrie?
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting as well. I mean, ascending further, the middle upper quartile and the third layer includes homes priced between, say, the 50th and 75th percentile. And that's appealing to buyers looking for more amenities, maybe, or premium locations. Say your St Andrews, your Ely's, those perhaps fall into that. And, you know, the top sits at the upper quartile, doesn't it, where the cream of the crop represent most expensive properties. as we say, the St Andrews
Yeah,
bucket.
we're going to see St Andrews nearly straight away, aren't we?
St Andrews and nearly dropped right into that bucket.
The London of Fife.
Exactly, and these homes are often very luxurious, aren't they? They're either boasting high-end features as well. They're in coveted locations because they're near the university, or for Ely, they're right down on the shorefront beside the ship.
Yeah.
You know, people want to see that, don't they? And they're generally in the most sought after and desirable areas as well. The best really that the market offers is really what those particular people are looking for, isn't it?
Yeah. By segment properties in these quartiles, we get an insight into the saleability and can tailor strategies to target buyers effectively within actually each segment. Because the basic run-of-the-mill flat or the two-bedroom terrace house and possibly Levenmouth area or Cooper area, you're not exactly going to be targeting them with people that will have, obviously go for properties in St Andrews or Ely or possibly East Neuk as well. So that's so you've got to make sure your campaign and make sure your digital strategy is going to target the right person rather than actually doing a sporadic catchy-all, which is I'll just put it on Rightmove and Zoopla and see what happens.
Keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Hope for the best. That's what does happen sometimes, doesn't it? We see that happening.
It does do. And I think you're absolutely right, Jim, when you talk about how we've got to target specific markets, because actually what you don't want to do as well is distance your market from you. And if you're targeting areas that actually are not interested in particular locations, you're kind of spoiling that element of capture, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, the property quartiles for Fife, for example, and the bandings. I mean, the lowest quartile, that's the first 25% of the lower value of the properties. Probably up to about 130,000, I would say. That's kind of, that's kind of where that market is. The lower middle quartile, which is the 25%, the next 25% to 50% of the values in Fife, which is about 130 to 220,000. Then the middle upper quartile, which is the 50% to the 75% in terms of value, which is 220 to 325,000, and the upper quartile, which is the highest 25% of the value, which is 325,000 upwards. Interestingly enough, I see every single week, that's where the buyers struggle a bit to get buyers for that because of the price point is a lot higher in comparison. So we'll have a split in the Fife property market approximately into 4 equal sizes. The results in terms of what price band has sold subject to contract is quite enlightening, actually. I'm going to just show you this on a table.
Makes interesting reading.
Yeah, it's quite good seeing it in a table format. So here we are here. So if you zoom in on that, we've got, the Fife market, the first 25% and the lower end up to 130,000, the number available and the number sold in comparison, 61% of what's sold. It's quite interesting. The 130 to 220 represents 56%. 220 to 325 represents 46%, and 325 to 325 upwards is 42%. So that's quite interesting in terms of the numbers there. So it shows you a decline. So the percentage sold is 61, 56, 46, 42. See how it starts to come down as we zoom in on that and see that in a bit more detail. It starts to come down. The statistics across various price ranges represent an interesting pattern. The property is priced up to 130,000 with a 459 already sold subject to contract represents 61% of that sale. The next price band, obviously, 130 to 220 is 383 sold and accounts for 56% of that. The 220 to 325 represents 252 sold, indicating 46% of that. And lastly, the 197 sold in the 325 and upwards represents 43% of that. So interestingly enough, you can see when you look at it just on what's sold, 383 sold in the 25%, the lower 25%. Then you go down to 459 sold in the lower 25%. Then it goes to 383 sold in the next 25%, and then the next 25% 252 sold, and then at the last final 25%, the upper band is 197 sold. So you see how that goes from 459, 383, 252, 197. So these numbers decline in terms of the
It's
number sold
quite
according to the price
interesting.
band. Yeah, they get
It's
less
quite
and less.
interesting because we've banded them in kind of 25% when we talk about the quarters. But actually, when you look at the number sold, and I don't know if this is just a coincidence, Jim, but it's almost a quarter every time it drops actually what sold as well.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because the upper end from the 325 compared to the up to the 130,000, there's less than half of these sold in comparison. But that's all to do with the price points when you look at it like that. So that then tells us clearly it shows that trend as the price of the property goes up. I mean, we could say the old adage about no Sherlock. You can fill in the blank there. No S, Sherlock. Tell us something we don't know. But for people out there that don't actually understand that, it is a fact that as the price of the property goes up, the number of people looking to buy it will go down because not everybody's got that purchasing power, and your market declines. Like from the price of the property at the bottom has a huge market. It's like a triangle, more or less. So you've got loads of people at the bottom here looking to buy property, able to buy property at that price point. But as the price goes up in value, therefore you see your buyers declining as they go up in numbers. So the buyers actually decline as the price goes up in value to the point where you get right to the pinnacle. And richly, you've got something at £1 million that only one person in FIFE will buy. And then you're having to wait for that one person to make a decision to buy a property. And then that's probably you're relying on probably the only property that's going to be available at the time, and that's the one they're going to buy. That's in a nonsensical way, if that makes sense. To just emphasize what it means in terms of the number of buyers as the price goes up declines and as the price goes higher. So hopefully everybody understands that. We've got this in graphical form anyway as well, and here I'll just quickly show you in the chart we've got. Let me just zoom in on that. See if I can get
That's
to
why
the
we
next
do
one.
that, Tim. It's interesting because I think as well for an agent and the seller and the arrangement and relationship that you build, really important for everyone to understand that, because in that high banding at 325 where 42% are selling, the other ones will eventually go. It's just a case of managing the timeline of how that will happen and when that will occur, isn't it? And not becoming frustrated and having a good strategy about how you're going to attract that one or two people too.
But you've also got to be a bit savvy with your pricing as well, because even though you're at that 325 and above in terms of your price bracket, and you're maybe sitting at 550,000, 500,000, 600,000 or something like that, as time goes on, there is other newer properties that come into the market. And if they're appropriately priced because of the current market, and that appropriately priced to the current market conditions, because remember the market conditions 6 months ago aren't the same as the market conditions now. As interest rates and base rates have begun to rise, therefore it makes it less affordable for people in the higher brackets. Therefore, they tend to go for a lower value property. Therefore, your property might not be appropriately priced at this point in time. So that's why it often takes a wee bit of time to actually say, okay, I need to probably look at reviewing or realigning the price point in order to attract the people. It would have got it at the higher price point, but they're actually looking at a wee bit lower now. So we need to trap these people back into the market so I can potentially push it back up once they see what's on offer. Because what they're doing at this point in time is they're actually just going, I tell you what, rather than up to 600,000 now, I could only probably go up to 500,000 in terms of my price point on Rightmove, on Zoopla, on S1 Homes, on Prime Location, on anybody else's website. I can only go up to that price banding now. When in actual fact, well, a wee bit of creative finance, if it's possible, it is potential they could actually get that affordability again. They just don't realize, they don't know what they don't know. So it's possible to get that. Hence the reason why I talk to a lot of sellers about, I know you've been in the market for quite a while, but you probably need to realign your price to introduce it to the audience that would have actually gone there in the first place in order to get them on board again and then push them back up to the original price point it had. That's why you realign a price point. You don't realign a price point technically just to give money away. That's not what it is. In other words, if you're at 550,000, for example, we're needing to go to 525. Well, I'm not wanting to give 25,000 away. Well, we're not giving 25,000 away. We're just introducing it to a different audience in order to push them back up.
But it's about explaining that and demonstrating how that's actually been achieved in the past, though, isn't it? Because a seller automatically will assume, hang on, I've just reduced my price. That means I'm not going to get as much. When actually that isn't necessarily what happens, as you say.
Yeah, it does. I mean, you're absolutely right. That's what sometimes happens. But that's the human psyche. It thinks like that. But in actual fact, if your agent understands what their remit is and what they're intending to do, and to get the person through the door to push them back up, that's fine. I've got to say though, kind of, I'm hard pressed to say this. If any other agents are watching, you could tell me different. But I think most agents actually come in with the strategy of we just need to reduce the price rather than realign the price. So they think because the house isn't selling, it's because of the price. When in actual fact, it's sometimes just the buyer's not in the market at that price point right now. So if the person's prepared to wait it out, as some people are, because we get a lot of people saying, look, I'm going to put it on the market now, which is what I say, because you never know what's going to happen. You're probably better to gauge the market right now in order to find out what really is going to happen. I tell you what, if it sells like that, we can negotiate a longer entry date to coincide with what you really want to achieve at the other end. If it doesn't sell like that, thank God, because you've not committed yourself to anything else right now.
Yeah. And that's the key, isn't it?
Because often what will happen is someone will see a property they really like, they'll run out and they'll commit themselves to it straight away, and they'll say, based on my property selling, and then they go, well, you've only got 8 weeks to get that sold then. And then it's like all hands to the pumps, all the pressure on them, all the stress on them, and then they often go away with feeling, with the experience they've had with the stage, oh, that was really stressful. I'm not surprised it was stressful. Guess who put yourself under pressure?
It's so easy to do, isn't it? And many people do it.
Have a good look in the mirror, and you'll see the person that put you under pressure in that situation. That's ultimately what it is. A lot of sellers put themselves under a lot of pressure in selling a house and buying a house because they don't understand how to do it correctly in order to alleviate that position and make it easier for them and more relaxed.
And we often get that, don't we, Jim, where people will say, and I still, even as early as yesterday, had that, I'm not putting my house in the market until I find something. It actually shouldn't work in that. It shouldn't work in that order, should it?
My goodness, my goodness, my goodness. That is if you ever hear that coming out of your mouth, you need to wash your mouth out with soap. I'm not putting my house on the market until I find the house I'm looking for. And the reason for that behind this, let me just explain this. This is what I found over the years of the experience I've gained in the estate agency market, and also as a buyer and also as a seller. If you're a seller, for example, who is your perfect buyer? So your perfect buyer is probably going to be someone which is maybe living in rented accommodation, and they're now a cash buyer because they've sold their house. They've got all the money in the bank. They don't need the mortgage, and they can agree to any entry date you want to allow you to find your next house because they're in rented accommodation. So they could wait for a long, long time till you get your house sold or find your next place. Sorry, that is your perfect buyer as a seller. The next one down from there is someone probably in rented accommodation, they've seen a situation, but they've got a mortgage to arrange. So they're in the process of arranging that. The next one out of that, the third one down in terms of the perfect buyer, is the person, it's possibly sold their house, it's going through right now. They're maybe at the point of getting concluded missives, and therefore they know the price that they're going to get. They're able to make their offer on yours. That's the third perfect buyer. And as we go down to the fourth one, it's someone who's maybe just put their house on the market. So they've not really they've got interest early, but they've not got any confirmed offers. That's the fourth perfect buyer. So that's 4 down from the original, the best buyer we can get. What's the fifth one? Somebody that's not even got their house on the market.
Yeah.
So when you say, I'm about to, I'm not putting my house on the market till I find the house that I want, what do you think the seller for the house that you want is thinking about your prospects as a buyer? Because you're number 5 in that process.
Yeah.
You're not number 1 anymore. How attractive as a buyer are you to them? You're not.
But also the buyer of their particular property will have the same mechanism in their mind.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So this is where this rhetoric, this is where this culture and this thought process needs to go away, and people need to understand the process and how the other person works. Why do you think over the years I've managed to buy so many properties from a portfolio and managed to get them all mainly at home report or below, even at the boom times? Because I understand the seller's psychology and the fact that what boxes do I need to tick to make the dream work for them in order to get my offer accepted way before anybody else's offer that potentially could be a lot more. And once you understand that as a buyer and understand it as a seller and understand it as an estate agent, you can make anything happen potentially.
Yeah. 100%.
So that is what we hear quite a few times. I'm not putting my house on the market till I find the best house for me. But by not doing that, you're putting yourself in the most undesirable buyer position that a seller could ever have. Because you're not even in a position to make an offer on their house because you don't even have the money to do it because you're reliant on your house selling. Let's look at the flip side of that. You put your house on the market and it sells straight away. I've got nowhere to go. I'm homeless.
Panic.
No, nothing like that at all. That should never happen because your estate agent should make it quite clear to every buyer that walks in the door before you even start that viewing process. If you're wanting this house within 4 weeks, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Because our seller needs time to look for the house that they're going to go to next. That's key. Now, the flip side of that is, if you don't want to do that, then you're no further forward than you are right now. But if you do that, at least you know and you can gauge exactly what's going to happen. And everything's on your terms now. It's like having a hand in poker and you've basically got 4 aces or you've got a royal flush. When you do that, when you put your house on the market before you find your next house, it's like having a royal flush. It's like nobody can beat that hand. And the reason for that is because you've got all the eggs in your you've got all the eggs in your basket. The ball's in your court every single time. You've got the full advantage here. Advantage part. It's like, isn't it? Because you've got all the cards. The buyer's not in control when you do that. Because you can demand anything you want because you've not got any pressures of a house that you've committed to already. But you've also got none of pressure, so you could say any entry date you want, and then if they don't agree with it, then it's so what? You were no further forward than not having your house in the market in the first place anyway. Exactly. With that person. And that person's not going to hang about till you put your house in the market when you find your dream home in 6 months' time. They'll have bought already by then.
They're gone.
So you may as well get that opportunity to have your house on the market way before you've got any other plans to do anything else. So you can gauge exactly what's going to happen right now. So you can plan for the future. So you can have less stress and be more relaxed about the whole buying and selling process.
I think that's key, isn't it? And actually, I've had sellers who have taken that leap of faith and believed that we would control things for them. And actually, they've put it on the market. They've got a really good offer, early doors, and it does give them the freedom then to plan and pick and choose where they go next. And they're in a position of strength for able to do that. And they have actually come back to say to me that, it was really stressful. I didn't really want to do that. But by Perrie, that worked for us. And we're in our dream home now. And we wouldn't have got it had we not done that first. Had we not put ours on first and got an offer early, we wouldn't have got the house we've ended up in.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the reality is, if they'd found a house that they really wanted to live in and they try to put in an offer without their house being in the market, they probably wouldn't have entertained it because somebody else would have been there, maybe even in a better position than they were to be able to do that.
Exactly.
So I think that's the key in doing that. But let's get back to the best performing price ranges in quartiles and FIFE, the FIFE area. they're really the lower quartile and the middle lower quartile, which is up to 50% of the housing market it comes on in terms of price bracket. With the upper quartile, the top 25% range, find the things a lot tougher, as we said, the 325,000 and upwards. In analysing the FIFE property market, it's clear that the dynamics are multifaceted and cannot be neatly categorised under a single umbrella. Here it is. So you can see here, this is this graphic I was going to show. See how up to 135,000, 130,000, 61% of the market is actually selling. And then it goes to 56% when you get to 130 to 220, and then down to 46% of what's coming on to 220 to 325, and then down to 42% or 43% of the 325 and upwards. So you can see there's a lot more properties actually selling from what's coming on in the lower price brackets up to the 220 mark. And then from 220 onwards, it dramatically declines. That's a big drop. That's like 5% from there to there, but there is 10%, and there to there is 3%. So there's a big drop in this 220 and upwards, which is what we talked about in all the successive shows. So we've kind of proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that the 250 mark is still relevant. 250 and upwards, you're going to struggle to sell a house. You've got to have a good marketing strategy, digital marketing strategy, clearly, because obviously that's where everybody, you're watching this probably right now on your phone. So if your agent hasn't got a digital marketing strategy for a phone, you've got no chance. You've got no chance. You're at the beck and call of Rightmove and Prime Location and Zoopla, which is basically you're in a shop like a supermarket like Asda's, and you're hoping that somebody's going to pick the Heinz baked beans instead of the New York baked beans or something like that. That's what you're hoping for when you go on Rightmove, Prime Location and Zoopla. What you do when you've got a specialist agent, it's somebody that knows the market they're targeting, and they use retargeting strategy, you're not even in the shop anymore. You're actually taking your product right to their front door and saying, I know you're probably wanting to buy this. Here it is here. Come and have a look at it. You're not even competing against anybody else at that point, using a proper digital marketing strategy.
I agree. And when we look at those categories, and you're saying about them not being under any single umbrella, the behaviour in the market at the moment is a bit akin to a kaleidoscope, isn't it? I mean, every time we turn it, it's revealing a different pattern based on the price segments, as we've shown. The diversity and performance across various price bands and quartiles is indicative of the market. It caters to a wider spectrum of buyers, of course, and their preferences and their financial capabilities really comes into play, doesn't it? But the most illuminating insight from the insights that we've looked at and the information that's come together for ourselves is the relative success of different price quartiles and what you're doing within those bandings, isn't it?
Well,
so the lower and middle quartiles, in regards to that, they're encompassing homes up to 220, and we're definitely seeing that they are selling quicker. They've shown remarkable resilience, actually, Jim, haven't they? And we'll talk about the lead mouth area. That's quite a strong area for that, with a high percentage of properties going under contract pretty quickly, as we've seen, 62.4%.
They will do, because affordability in FIFE is at that price point. So more and more people are choosing not to pay a lot more for a property, but find properties which are more appropriate for their needs rather than their wants. And it's primarily driven by their budgets. It's primarily driven because, we're at a point where, gas and electricity is going to be quite high because we're in the winter months now. We're also at a point where other, food and that's going to be quite high because inflation's now kicked in and it's at full pelt. And it will probably stay quite stable. It'll probably come down next month and the month after as well. And that's fine. But it's all built into these costs now. So this is why people's budgets are going to have to be realigned. However, we know for a fact that we've still got full employment and we've still got a case where wage negotiations are outperforming actual inflation right now. So that might fuel inflation a wee bit. But then the Bank of England and the Chancellor doesn't help by coming out and saying, well, it's going to be a wee bit tougher. It's like, great. Just why do you need to say that? Can you not just shut your mouth and just let people? Because there's people out there, even though they know it's not going to be tougher for themselves, when they hear that from somebody in that sort of peer group, they immediately assume they're right, and then they look at themselves and go, "Oh, it's going to be a bit tougher." But when you look at your actual budget and what you can afford and what you're earning, it's like, No, it's not going to be a bit tougher for you at all. You're just getting that impression because everybody else around about you is telling you. You get like the people you associate with.
It's mirroring, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
We talk about that a lot. So what do you think that this, I mean, we're talking about this 220 bracket. What do you think is reflecting within those trends, Jim? What do you think's kind of firing it?
Well, this trend is likely reflects a robust demand for first-time buyers and investors in the moderately priced FIFE property band. In contrast, the upper quartile, for example, represent the most expensive homes in FIFE, faces a more challenging landscape, with the lower percentage of homes sold in that segment. This could be experiencing, they will be experiencing a slowdown. We know that. We're not daft here. And people are seeing that they're having a slowdown, possibly due to this limited buyer pool, as we spoke about before, how that's happening, and the broader economic factors affecting higher end property investments, and this underlines the need for realistic pricing. Now, this disparity in market performance underscores the importance of understanding FIFE's property landscape through a segmented approach by recognizing the unique characteristics and demand drivers within each quartile. Estate agents, buyers, sellers can actually make more informed decisions. So as a FIFE, I mean, there's no surprise here. We call FIFE Properties. Does what it says in the tin. Are you going to sell my house in Dundee? No, we're in FIFE. Are you going to sell my house in Edinburgh? No, we're in FIFE. Are you going to sell my house in FIFE? Yes, we can absolutely do that. As a FIFE estate agent, this insight into local markets nuances only enhances our ability to advise clients, but also not only advances our ability to advise clients, but also reinforces our commitment to providing tailored solutions that resonate with the needs, the diverse needs, that is, of the FIFE community. What's your final thoughts on this, Perrie?
I think for me, it's very much easy to look at the headlines and not really understand the meat that's behind the headlines. It goes back to what you said there when they're saying that things are going to get tough. Instantly, you have a negative approach to that. And I always say the best thing that you can do to understand how you move forward as an individual and whatever is needed for your circumstances and your life-changing experience that you're going through, arm yourself with the facts, speak to someone that's going to guide you properly, and speak to someone actually, if you are in that higher quartile, and you need a robust program of marketing, reach out to someone who can achieve that for you, because you need every tool you can get to try and make it happen.
I think you're absolutely right. I think it is, you need every tool to see if you can make that happen. I don't think it's a case of just, the typical example is what happened before is like, I'm going to go with St Andrews estate agent. It's like, okay, but you're in Cooper. You're in, it's like, or you're in East Neuk. It's like, I'm going to go with St Andrews estate agent. But why would you do that? Because there's a St Andrews estate agent, because it's St Andrews.
So because they're in the high street.
Well, that's another dispelled rumour, isn't it? They're in the high street. They've got a premises. It's like, you know how many people walk into an estate agents nowadays? Zero. Literally zero. They only walk in to collect their keys or pick up their keys. It's very rare anybody walks into an estate agent anymore to buy a property or to say they're going to sell a property. Everything's done by email. It's done by phone call, by WhatsApp. It's done by Messenger. It's done by personal contact. It's all these different things that are happening, and it's all sometimes outside hours and at weekends. So if you don't have if you've got an estate agent Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, you're screwed. I mean, I'll be honest, you're screwed. It's like, everything happens outside of these hours. That's everybody has the time outside of that hours. Nobody has the time within that hours because they're all working. Everybody lead busy lives. So you need to make it as easy and robust as possible. Now, I'll give you an example of that. The QR codes on for sale boards right now. Now, as people walk past and they see QR codes on for sale boards, the QR codes all go to their homepage. Now, if it goes to their homepage, you've then got to go into their homepage when they get on the QR code, when you're walking past this on your leisurely stroll, when you're out walking the dog or you're walking your cat, if you do walk your cat, some people do walk their cat, or if they're out with their kids, or if they're out running, and you get the QR code and you go, yeah, beauty. You go into the QR code, you get their homepage, and then you go, okay, I've got to put in the criteria now. So where is this? This is all right. Okay, this is St. Monans. Okay, right, St. Monans. I'll put that in. What's the price bracket of this? This is maybe. You've lost the time already. It's like, flipping heck, I'm out for a run. I'm not out to look up this property now. It's like I'm on their homepage. That's no use to me anymore. You need a QR code that goes direct to the property. It has to be so simple, because you can see by the amount of time having to go through and everything, I don't think anybody uses anybody's QR codes on for sale boards to actually look for property when they're walking past. They've got other things to do. Yeah. Could you imagine with your dog hauling away at you and you're trying to wait? I'm trying to look up this. I'm trying to get this number in onto your phone. It's like, oh my God, stop pulling. It's like
Jock would not be having it now. Jock would be like, come on, Mum, go.
So this is why we're working on this right now. It's very difficult to actually get the QR code individually onto here, because QR codes are unique. So you can't, so it's a generic thing that everybody's using. This is why we're not putting QR codes on there now, because it doesn't do any good. All it does is annoy people, because they can't really, they'll take ages to get to your page. So this is why you understand, you've got to make it so simple for somebody to get through. If your system incorporates hurdles, in other words, somebody's got to do something to get information or get more information, and it's not that simple, they've left your website already.
Yeah,
it's got to be really that simple.
They just give up, don't they?
Yeah. Hence the reason why it's like, ours is you put the price point you're after, you hit the button, it tells you the post regions it's available, tick that box, hit the number, you get a list. Job done. Simple, easy and simple. Not you find out, you put a town in, and then you find out there's no return. There's nothing. This is one thing I really used to annoy me. It's like you go into everybody's website and you put a town in, no return, no return, no return. We've not got any properties in there. It's like, oh my God. It's like, I am never going to visit that person's website again. And you know who they are. They're predominantly solicitors, to be honest. They don't understand the thought process. This is why the only time you get a return from us is a return to show you what's available. That is it. You don't get a return to show you what's not available, because that just annoys people. But there's still websites out there that do that in their search engines. I don't understand the rhetoric of that, why they need to do that, because it's really annoying, especially for a consumer. I've only got 2 or 3 attempts at this, and then I have to get on with my life of what I'm doing elsewhere. If you're not going to give me the right result, I'm just going.
It just gets too difficult.
And if you can understand all these wee simple things, these wee simple processes, it makes it so simple for a customer to engage with you and actually to see your property and actually get on and get information. And that's why we talk about message us direct. There's no point in sending an email. Just message us direct on these posts. Message us direct. We'll pick up your contact details. We'll get in touch with you. Job done. How simple is that to do? Because you're on this right now. You're on this right now. Right now. Okay, just send my message direct. Okay, message button. There you go. Job done. Rather than, I'll go into Google and look up your website number. I'll then see if I can find it on the website. I maybe can't find it on the website because it's no on yet. That's what happens sometimes. I'll just look up your number on your telephone. So I'll go into Google again. It's like, I've lost a lot to live by then, by the way.
Yes.
And then I'll find your number, and then I'll phone the number, and then I might get an engaged tone, or you might be busy right now, or it might be out of hours and I'm not going to get anything at all. I might get an answer machine. I'll have to listen to all that huge, long speech about, we office hours are from Monday to Friday, 9 till 5. And outside of that, we just have an answer machine. It's like, oh my God, I'm just going to slit my wrist right now. It's like, where's the razor? Honestly, it's like, that's the kind of thing where some people still operate on. It is so frustrating, that type of system. And that's why you have to make it really, really easy for a buyer and a seller and a tenant and a landlord to engage with what you do. Hence the reason, just message us direct in this post or call the number I'm about to say right now. End of story. And that's my rant over for the day. Everybody else.
You're done.
You know, we're not only, you know, we're not perfect in terms of what we're doing, but we're, you know, we can work towards that. You can work towards that. It's marginal gains, marginal differences. You can work towards that. And the most important point is it's Kaizen, which is Japanese for a never-ending journey of improvement. That's probably what I think the most important thing is about estate agents today. A never-ending journey of improvement to make it easier and easier and simpler for the customers to engage with you, and easy to buy. Make it so simple for them to do it. Make it so they can't really say no. You know, that's the perfect thing. You know,
It's a
this is
good
the
way to
lifestyle
end.
you can get. Yeah. Why are you sitting in the city right now when you could have this glorious sunshine? When you could just walk out your office for your afternoon tea, instead of going to Costa, you can just walk down to the beach to a local cafe, and you can sit on the table and chairs out the front and look out to the Firth of Forth and say to yourself, welcome to God's country.
On that note.
I'm right there right now. I could feel it. I could feel it. I could feel it right now. That whole thing, the emotion of it. Anyway, thanks for coming on, Perrie. Really appreciate that. If anybody else is listening to this later on, needs to get in touch with us, message us direct on this post. Yeah, direct on this post. Don't go through hoops. Don't jump hurdles or anything like that. Just come direct on this post and we'll pick you up on our mobiles. Until next time, guys. Bye-bye from us.